Hey guys, what's up? I'm Zach. Welcome to Zach's Soapbox. This is the video for the week of Friday, November 7th, 2025. Hey everyone, welcome to my little corner of YouTube and corner of the internet where I get on here, speak my mind, talk about whatever I want to talk about once a week. You guys give me feedback. Let me know if you like it. Like, comment, and share. Be sure to like, comment, and share on this video and also subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. If you like and dig the video, we do something different here every week. I'm Zach, of course, and so I don't know, but let's get started. I kind of threw this together because I was kind of thinking about it, and I threw down some ideas, and then hopefully this works. But anyways, kind of the title and premise of this week's video is we release a video here every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific. That's 1 p.m. Eastern. But here we go. When it's time to move on and kind of cut your losses. I moved out to Vegas a little over 5 years ago. And I didn't move here for the bright lights, for the gambling, for the shows, for the whatevers. I moved here thinking with 24-hour bus transportation and more handicap accessibility in a big city that I'd be able to get a job. I moved here thinking, I made the false assumption that because I would live in a building with other handicapped and disabled people, because I'm wheelchair bound and I have cerebral palsy, that those people would be like me and I would automatically have something in common. Because growing up in a small town in western Pennsylvania, you're the only wheelchair bound person, right? So you never really been around your peers and that sort of thing. So I made the false assumption of moving out here and assuming that I'd be around people that were like me. But if you know me, there aren't many people like me, are there? So that was a false assumption I made. And I assumed that being able to get around and go to concerts and go to movies, that I'd be able to get out and meet people and maybe meet somebody, have a girlfriend, a social life, things like this. Over 5 years in, none of that has panned out. I think it's why sometimes I throw myself into the exercise and the weightlifting and kind of sometimes I'll weightlift till I can't lift anymore. Because it's almost like you're substituting like an emotional pain for like a physical pain. That if I just throw myself into work or throw myself into weightlifting, almost like a high functioning depressive, where you kind of, you finish all your tasks, but then as soon as your tasks are done, you want to withdraw and go be by yourself, that sort of thing. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of it is like a high functioning depression type thing. But getting off topic, that's a little bit different topic, but it kind of relates. But so when it's time to cut your losses and move on. When quitting seems to be the harder choice. See, the thing with me is if I was to move out of here and go somewhere else, I don't really have anywhere else to go. I mean, I guess you could say I can go anywhere, but if I go home, that's never been really a good option. The last 5 or 6 years I spent back home in Pennsylvania. I was alone on Christmas and Thanksgiving and everything. Nobody's going to come see you for your birthday. You can't go to a movie because you're in a rural area, so there's no real public transportation to really speak of. You have the Mercer County Transit, but that really just takes you to doctors, and you got to make them all for first thing in the morning because when I lived in transfer, I had to be back on the transit I had to be done by 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's not time to do anything. But so the thing is, if you did move home, there's no home to really move to. For one thing, people change and people move on. Those people you knew 5, 6 years, 7 years ago, you don't know them people anymore. And some of my relatives I haven't seen in years. When I went home back in 2021 for a visit, quote unquote, that was the first time I'd seen my grandmother in 5 years, and I only lived in Vegas 9 months. So you go home, you don't have a family or nothing to go to. A lot of my family, there's a lot of turmoil. It's difficult. I won't get into details, but so sometimes I feel like I'm in one of the positions where quitting and going somewhere else is almost the harder choice. Being out here, I've learned the lay of the land now, and I've learned how to survive. I've learned how to play the game. But am I really happy? No. You know what I'm saying? like I take trazodone for sleep. I never did take it before. That sort of thing. They even put me on a mild blood pressure medication, which I never had to be on before. There's a lot of stress and a lot of things that come with living in a big city like this, and feeling like you can't have nobody to relate to, and feeling like you can't talk to anybody because you see how if you talk to somebody, they just go repeat everything you said to somebody else, the gossip and this and that, so you can't even fucking talk to anybody. So here I am, moved out here thinking you're gonna have a life. You didn't end up having a life at all. You know, I mean, okay, today we went and seen that movie Roof Man with Channing Tatum. You know, okay, things like that, or maybe you get to order a little more fast food, or maybe you get to go to a concert or something once in a while. But that's almost not enough to justify the not having Medicaid because you make too much, you know, in this state to really qualify for its Medicaid. That's not enough to justify the loneliness with coming here and not being able to really relate to anyone or feel like you really can't talk to anyone. That sort of thing. But so when quitting is the harder choice. The second thing, I feel like the effort has outweighed what I've got. I didn't move here to go to the movies or eat, you know, go eat fast food or go to McDonald's or gamble. I moved here thinking I was going to get a job and be a productive and be out in the world, meeting people, having a social life, etc. So I really feel like the effort, I mean, it cost over $5,000 for me to move out here. The effort is really not, it was too much effort for too little cost. Big deal. You get to go to a concert once in a while or something, but then you still got to deal with the bus. How many times is like, oh, I missed my bus because the driver didn't know where to go to pick me up or something like that, or they didn't know where to drop me off at. You know what I mean? Another thing is you keep trying and you keep trying, but you just feel stuck. You know what I mean? Where you just keep trying, but you still feel like you're in that same rut over and over again. You know. The fourth thing is when you maintain something and you stay, but yet it affects your mental health, your physical health, your family, etc., etc. But what do I do? Because in a way, the best thing I ever did was get away from certain like toxic people. So what do? You know what I mean? That sort of thing. And then also don't get stuck in that like where you're trying to prove yourself to other people or prove something to yourself, where you're trying to prove something to yourself and it's this little thing over here, but you're not really looking at the big picture of things. You know what I mean? And then finally, it's time to cut bait and run if the outcome is beyond your control. If there's things in the thing that you can't really control and you have no control over certain aspects of things, maybe it's time to cut bait and run. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. And I will say that letting go, I have trouble like letting go of things. So like sometimes when I have a dream or a goal, I want to attain it because that's just the way I've always been. You know what I mean? To where sometimes giving up or letting go is the best thing you could actually do, and giving up and letting go in and of itself is actually a victory. You can't just keep knocking yourself out. You know what I mean? Sometimes just setting, like, you know what I mean? It's like doing weight training and you're like doing reps and you're going 22, 23, 24, and you can't quite get to 25. That's okay. Don't pull a muscle and just try again next time. You know what I mean? But no, sometimes I feel like with Vegas, man, it's just time to cut bait and run. I'm still on the waiting list back home for the housing authority and stuff. I'm number 151 when they called 2-3 weeks ago. So, but I just feel like it's time to move on. What happened was we had an inspection about a month and a half ago, and my floor was scrubbed and mopped because I paid. I gave a friend of mine $20 to come over and mop it and scrub it. So she did, and it was spotless and shiny. I get written up because my floors aren't mopped and scrubbed and swept. They were. It's almost as though they wrote me up for it before they even come in to take a look. So then that was Friday. I was supposed to have this re-inspection, and you know, the guy actually, our maintenance man, even forgot to do it, but yet he hasn't mopped the hall and mopped the entry four-way in probably a month. You got people in here that smoke weed on the premises, and they're not supposed to smoke weed on the property, or they're supposed to be 25 feet from the building, or they're supposed to pick up after their pet if they have one, and, you know, pick up dog waste and things like that, and they don't. They don't have their dog on a leash, etc., etc., etc. But you're going to talk about the marks from my wheelchair tire on my fucking floor. I'm not. I'd have to almost have a mop behind me, behind my wheelchair, just mopping me up as I go. That's not going to happen. Okay, that sort of thing. So I think it's a little bit ridiculous and a little bit excessive. You're going to let everybody smoke weed on the premises. We got the fucking door propped open half the time to where anybody can just come in here, a homeless person, you name it. But that's not a lease violation, and nobody cares about that. But then, you know, so I'm like, dude, are you going to come do this inspection? He's like, I don't even care, man. If anybody asks, you passed. And I'm like, no, come look. This way it's done. You know, why'd you write, if you don't give a fuck in the first place, why'd you write me up in the first place? If you don't care, then why'd you write me up in the first place? Where I got a letter from the management of this place, which our corporate office is in Minnesota, which I'm in Las Vegas. You know, it's kind of weird having, like when I do my annual lease recertification every year, I got to send it snail mail to St. Paul, Minnesota, and all this bullshit. But if you don't care, why'd you write me up in the fucking first place? You know what I'm saying? But a lot of times I feel like with Vegas, like all the effort I put in, I did it. You know, I got furniture for myself. I cook for myself. I did it. And I'm glad I did it. I'm proud I did it. And I would have always wanted to know. So I'm glad I did it. But at the same time, when is enough enough? You know, I think a lot of this, like say the little bit of blood pressure thing, or when they bitch about my cholesterol, I eat fish probably 2-3 times a week. It's not like I'm sucking down McDonald's cheeseburgers every night. We eat a lot of fish, either tuna. A lot of times I bake fish in the oven because I think it's better. You get sick of tuna real quick. But, you know, but I think a lot of it is just kind of the stress and always feeling lonely and feeling sad because everybody's so negative. Even like when you try to sit out and talk, all they're talking about and gossiping is whoever's not there and each other. And that's just a negative environment all the time. You know what I mean? But at the same time, I don't have any family or anything to really fall back on. So you just kind of grin and bear it and grin and bear it and grin and bear it. But boy, that gets old and that gets tiresome, you know? But sometimes in life, the best thing you could ever do is just move on and, you know, cut your losses and run. And sometimes I think it's about time for me to do that. But all right, guys, that's the video for this week. Take care, peace out, and I'll see you.